right, let's look at how to do the stock market lab. So you're going to be able to do a lot of cool things here. First thing you're going to do though is you got to pick a company that you are interested in looking up, and you actually need to look up the symbol for that company, because when you're looking at stock prices, Lego, it might not be Lego, it might just be LE. So what you're going to do is once you have picked your stock and you go ahead, look up its symbol, and then you're going to click on the link to actually get the data for it. So if I'm going to choose Apple, Apple is APPL for Apple Inc. So I'm going to go right to Apple here and get that data. Now once I'm here, I'm looking right down here, and I'm going to choose the number of the timeline that I want to get it in. I'm going to get it in 10 years. All right, so I'll click on 10 years. And then it's going to actually give me 10 years of data, which is an enormous amount of data. So I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. At the bottom, you can see it says download this file in Excel format. So I'm going to go ahead and download that file. When I open up the file, it looks like this, a little hard to read, but we can just enlarge things. These columns right here, I do not need. I'm going to delete these because all I'm interested in is my closing price for every day, because that's going to be a little more constant than the highs and the lows. So I'll just go ahead and delete these three columns. I also don't need today's, because today's isn't closed yet, so it's not good data for me. I'm trying to be consistent on my data, so I'm going to delete that as well. All right, now I've got my data. Now the issue is this year. This is going to be hard to use as quantitative data, so I'm going to actually turn this into a number instead. So I highlight that whole thing. I'm going to turn it into a number, and this is going to be how many days have passed, the count since 1900. So that means that yesterday was day 42,809. All right, once I've got all this, I'm going to go ahead, highlight it all, and I'm going to make my plot. So I'm going to insert. We need, when we have both an explanatory and a response variable, we're going to need to use a scatter plot, and here it is. Awesome. You may notice it's way down here. I don't like to have my data down here, so I'm going to actually just hit Control X. I'm going to fly right back up to the top, just activate the cell and hit Control V, and now it is where I can use it. Also, feel free to sort of clean up your data a little bit so it looks nice. All right, now it's looking a little bit nicer. So now I'm going to look at this graph. I'm going to clean this up a little bit too. So I really like to see what the graph looks like. So I actually don't like dead space, which is right here. So I'm going to, just so I can read these numbers a little bit, expand it out. I can see that the count doesn't really start until around 3,900. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm just going to put my minimum instead of at 3,850. I might try and do that at 39,000. Okay, and now it kind of expands it out. Now these, it looks from the top and bottom pretty good. All right, before I think about the correlation between the year and the price, I'm going to just make sure I've got my conditions. So check those three conditions about quantitative, is it linear, and outliers. I think I'm okay on all of these, except I do realize I have not labeled this. I'm going to quickly label that. All right, I'm now ready to actually try to figure out what my correlation is, as well as the equation for the line. So let's actually stick that line in here. So to do that, I go up to Design, I go to Chart Elements, and you can see here it says Trend Line. So I'm going to want a nice linear trend line, and it sticks. It's going to increase the width so I can really see that line pretty clearly. All right. Okay, so moving on, and I've also changed the color. So now I'm ready to add the equation. To add the equation, I can just double click on that line and scroll on down once I'm on the data button. And right here, if I just click on display the equation will pop up for everyone to see. And now I just want to enlarge it and make it more visible. I just increase the top font and I'll move it so you can see it better. All right, so now I can see the equation of this line. We'll work on the interpretation later. Now let's actually get what the correlation. So to find the correlation, I can do the long way using the z-values, or I can also just have Excel do it for me. So Excel can do all those calculations for you using equals coral. So I just go to my x values, Control Shift down, I hit comma, and then I have to go up to the top again. And I go to my y values, or my response values, and hit enter, and I can then see that, I'll just make this a little bit easier to see. Let's just put it at 2 numbers up. So you can see that we have 0.95 for our correlation coefficient, which is a very, very strong relationship here between time, number of days, and stock prices.